The landowner's revenge. Ryan Thompson had seen plenty of strange things in his time, but nothing could have prepared him for the sheer absurdity of what he was looking at now. It was a letter thick, official, and stamped with a logo that made his stomach turn with irritation. The Homeowners Association. That was laughable. He lived on 1,700 acres of farmland, not some manicured suburban cul-de-sac. But as his eyes darted over the words, his confusion twisted into something much sharper. According to the letter, his entire farm had been sold. The land that had been in his family for generations, the place he had poured his sweat and soul into, had somehow been taken from him by an HOA he never even agreed to be part of. He read it again, then again, willing the words to make sense. Due to non-payment of HOA fees, your property has been sold to developers for community expansion. You have 30 days to vacate. Ryan let out a short, humorless laugh. It wasn't a mistake. These people were serious. Someone out there believed they had the authority to steal his land, sell it, and tell him to pack his bags like a tenant being evicted from an apartment. Ryan clenched the letter in his fist, his jaw tightening. This was some joke. If it wasn't, someone was about to have a very, very bad day. By the time he stormed into the HOA office, he was still debating whether he should laugh or start flipping tables. The receptionist, a woman with the practiced plastic smile of someone who thrived on unnecessary rules, looked up and barely concealed her look of disdain. "Can I help you?" she asked in the slow, condescending tone people reserved for someone they considered beneath them. Ryan slapped the letter onto the desk. "Yeah, you can start by explaining how the hell an HOA I don't belong to thinks they can sell my damn farm." Her fake smile barely wavered. "Ah, you must be Mr. Thompson. Please wait while I get Mrs. Bellamy, our HOA president." He didn't wait. He followed her straight into a PR office where a woman in her mid-50s sat behind a mahogany desk, filing her nails like she wasn't ruining people's lives for sport. Brenda Bellamy barely glanced up. "Mr. Thompson," she said in the overly sweet voice of someone who thought she was untouchable. "I assume you're here about the property transfer." Ryan let out a slow breath, forcing himself to stay calm. "The illegal property transfer," he corrected. "I don't have an HOA. I never agreed to one. So you're going to explain to me how you think you have any right to sell my land." Brenda sighed, like he was being dramatic. "It's quite simple, Mr. Thompson. Your land was annexed into our gated community expansion after a town council vote." She gestured vaguely. "All legal. We sent notices." Ryan's eye twitched. "What notices?" Her smile was all teeth. "We mailed them to the address on file." Ryan stared at her, then gave a short laugh. "The address on file? You mean the one that's literally on the land you stole?" She gave a nonchalant shrug. "Well, if you didn't read your mail, that's hardly our fault. And considering the HOA fees were unpaid." Ryan cut her off. "There were no HOA fees because I don't have a damn HOA." Brenda let out an exaggerated sigh, clearly finding this all beneath her. "Mr. Thompson, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. The property has been legally transferred. You have 30 days to vacate. We're even offering you a relocation stipend as a courtesy." She slid a check across the desk. Ryan picked it up. $500. They'd sold his family's land worth millions for $500. He stared at the check, then at her, then back at the check. And then he did the only thing that felt appropriate. He laughed. Not just any laugh, a deep, gut-busting, uncontrollable laugh that only got louder the longer Brenda stared at him with her lips pursed in irritation. "You think this is funny?" she asked. Ryan wiped his eyes. "Brenda," he said, still chuckling. "You have no idea." He leaned in, voice low. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Mr. Thompson, we're done here." He didn't argue. Instead, he plucked the check off the desk, crumpled it into a ball, and tossed it over his shoulder as he walked out. Ryan drove straight to his lawyer, who didn't even bother hiding his horror when he saw the documents. "They forged signatures," his lawyer muttered, flipping through the papers with increasing disgust. "Bribed the right people. These contracts wouldn't hold up in a fair trial." Ryan crossed his arms. "Great. So, let's take them to court." His lawyer let out a long sigh. "Ryan, this isn't a fair trial situation. These people have deep pockets and political connections. Even if we fight it, it could take years to undo." Ryan's fingers drummed against the desk. He wasn't the kind of man who backed down from a fight, but he also wasn't stupid. A legal battle was expensive, and it didn't guarantee he'd get his land back before they bulldozed it into a cookie-cutter suburbia nightmare. But there was one very important thing Brenda and her smug little HOA didn't know. Ryan owned more than just the land. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a separate deed, one they never even thought to check. His lawyer took it, eyes scanning over the paper before he froze. Ryan, his voice was almost giddy. Is this what I think it is? Ryan grinned. It sure is. His lawyer sat back, shaking his head in awe. They really screwed up. Oh, they did more than that, Ryan said, standing up and stretching. They just sold a property that doesn't have a single drop of water on it. His lawyer let out a low whistle. And the only water supply for that entire community. Ryan's grin widened. That is sitting right on my other land. The one they didn't steal. There was a long, satisfied silence. Then his lawyer let out a sharp laugh. Well, this is going to be fun. Ryan tipped his hat. You have no idea. Ryan woke up the next morning with the kind of determination that only comes from knowing you hold the winning hand. The HOA thought they had backed him into a corner, but they didn't realize they had actually locked themselves in a burning building with no exit. The moment he stepped outside, he took a deep breath of the crisp country air and smiled. Today was going to be a bad day for Brenda Bellamy. He made the call just before noon. Within an hour, the pipes leading to the HOA's water supply were officially shut off. Not a single drop of water would make it past the boundary of his property. Legally, there was nothing stopping him. The HOA had annexed his land without his consent, sold it off to developers, and in doing so, they had forfeited their rights to the well that sat on his other property. It wasn't just a move for revenge. It was business. They wanted water? They could pay for it like any other private entity. The first call came from an unknown number. Ryan let it ring. Then came another. Then another. By the fourth call, he finally picked up, putting the phone to his ear with a lazy grin. Mr. Thompson. Brenda's voice was no longer sweet or condescending. It was sharp, barely masking the panic underneath. We seem to be having an issue with the water supply in our community. Ryan played dumb. Water supply? You don't say. Brenda took a deep breath as if she were trying to suppress the urge to scream. Yes, the entire community is experiencing an outage. Ryan nodded to himself. Well, I hate to hear that, Brenda. That's got to be rough. You should probably call the water company. There was a pause. Ryan, she said, her voice dangerously low. You are the water company. Ryan let the silence stretch out, enjoying the weight of her realization. Then he cleared his throat. Oh yeah, that's right. That well does belong to me, doesn't it? He sighed dramatically. Dang, that's got to be awkward for you. Brenda lost the last thread of patience she had. You cannot just cut off our water supply. Do you have any idea what you've done? There are hundreds of people in this community who depend on that water. Ryan leaned back against the porch railing, watching his cattle wander lazily across the fields. Well, Brenda, that's a real shame. But here's the thing, you never paid for that water. And since I'm no longer part of your little community, I'm afraid I don't see why I should be handing it out for free. Brenda was seething. This is extortion. Ryan chuckled. No, Brenda. What you did to me was extortion. This is just business. Brenda tried to hold on to whatever power she still believed she had. You can't just. Ryan cut her off. I can, and I did. But hey, I'm a reasonable man. If your HOA wants to buy water from me, I'll be happy to discuss pricing. Brenda scoffed. Pricing? Ryan nodded, even though she couldn't see him. Yep. I think a fair number would be, let's say, $5 million up front. And if you want a monthly plan, well, I'll need $10,000 a month to keep the taps running. The silence that followed was so thick, Ryan could almost hear Brenda's brain short-circuiting. This is insanity, she finally exploded. You're a petty, small-minded. Ryan cut her off again, this time with a yawn. All right, Brenda. I gotta go. Got crops to tend. You know how it is. Give me a call when you're ready to do business. And with that, he hung up. By that evening, the HOA was in absolute chaos. The community was not handling the water crisis well. People couldn't shower, the golf course was drying up, the fancy fountains at the entrance of the neighborhood had stopped flowing, and even the community pool was already starting to turn a disgusting shade of green. Ryan sat on his porch with a glass of iced tea, watching from a distance as HOA board members scrambled in a desperate attempt to fix their problem. They had been so arrogant, so sure they could bulldoze over him without consequence. But now they were panicking.